You've been lied to about car loans, not by a shady dealership finance guy twirling his mustache, but by an entire industry that figured out something terrifying. If they make the monthly payment small enough, you'll stop doing math. Because right now, the average auto loan term in America has crept up to 68 months. Some lenders are pushing 84-month loans. That's 7 years. 7 years of payments on a car that'll probably need new tires before you're halfway done paying for it. And the reason this matters isn't the interest rate on the sticker. It's what happens when you actually run the numbers on cash versus financing over that full 7-year window. Because the gap isn't a few $100s. It's enough to change your retirement. So let's actually do the math nobody wants to show you. Let's say you're buying a $35,000 car. That's roughly the average new vehicle price in America right now. You've got two paths in front of you. Path 1, you pay cash. Path 2, you finance it over 84 months at 7% interest, which is close to the average rate for a decent credit score buyer today. If you finance it, your monthly payment comes out to around $530 a month. Sounds manageable, right? That's the whole trick. It's built to sound manageable, but by the time you make that final payment in year 7, you will have paid roughly $44,500 for a $35,000 car. That's $9,500 in interest alone, just gone, evaporated, transferred straight into a bank's earnings call. But here's where it actually gets ugly, because that's not even the real cost. The real cost is what that $9,500 could have become if it never left your pocket in the first place. Meet Sarah. Sarah has the cash sitting in a brokerage account. She could pay for the car outright today. Instead, let's say she takes the loan and invests the difference. Actually, let's flip it. Let's say Sarah pays cash, and instead of making that $530 monthly payment to a lender, she invests $530 a month into an index fund averaging a historical 8% annual return. After 7 years, that $530 a month invested at 8% grows to roughly $57,000. Let that number sit for a second. $57,000 from money that would have otherwise just disappeared into interest payments and depreciation math. Now compare that to the person who financed the car. They didn't have an extra $530 a month to invest because it was going straight to the auto lender. So their opportunity cost isn't just the $9,500 in interest. It's the $57,000 they never built in their brokerage account. That's the number car dealerships hope you never calculate. And this is the part traditional financial advice glosses over, because just buy what you can afford isn't the same as understand what financing actually costs you across a full decade of compounding. But I know what some of you are thinking. Interest rates aren't free money for cash buyers either. If rates are 7% and the market historically returns 8 to 10%, isn't financing the car and investing the cash the smarter move mathematically? And in a vacuum, sure, that argument holds up on a spreadsheet. But here's the problem. That spreadsheet assumes perfect discipline. It assumes you actually take that freed up cash and invest every single month for 7 years straight without touching it. And in reality, that's not what happens. Because when you finance a car, instead of paying cash, the cash you saved doesn't automatically march itself into an index fund. It sits in a checking account, and money sitting in a checking account has a funny way of turning into vacations, into home renovations, into I'll start investing next month. The theoretical arbitrage only works if you have the discipline of a hedge fund manager. Most people don't. Most people have Target and DoorDash. So the real-world comparison isn't cash versus invest the difference. It's cash versus what actually happens to most people's money when it's not locked into a monthly obligation, which is that it quietly disappears into lifestyle creep. But let's Steelman the financing side for a second, because it's not automatically the villain here. If you can get a 0% or low-rate promotional loan, the math flips entirely. Some manufacturers offer 0% financing to move inventory, especially near year-end. In that scenario, financing costs you nothing extra, and keeping your cash liquid, invested, or earning interest in a high-yield savings account is objectively the smarter move. The problem isn't financing itself. The problem is financing at market rates, while telling yourself it's the smart choice because a finance influencer once said, "Debt is a tool. Debt is a tool." But most 7-year auto loans aren't a tool. They're a symptom. They're a symptom of a car market where the average new vehicle now costs over $48,000 and incomes haven't kept pace. So instead of buying a car people can actually afford, the industry extended the loan term to shrink the monthly payment and hide the real price tag. 7-year loans didn't emerge because they're financially optimal. They emerged because 36-month loans on a $48,000 car produce a monthly payment most people can't stomach. So lenders stretched the timeline until the number felt palatable again. And this creates a second hidden cost that almost nobody talks about: depreciation versus loan balance. A new car loses roughly 20% of its value in the first year alone, and close to 60% by year 5. But your loan balance doesn't depreciate on the same curve. It amortizes on a fixed schedule, which means for a huge chunk of a 7-year loan, you're underwater. You owe more than the car is worth. Financial analysts call this negative equity. Everyone else just calls it being trapped. So if your transmission dies in year 3, or your job relocates, or you simply want out of the car, you can't just sell it and walk away clean. You have to pay the difference between what it's worth and what you still owe, in cash, on top of whatever you're putting toward the next vehicle. That's how people end up rolling negative equity from one car loan into the next one, compounding the mistake instead of escaping it. Cash buyers never hit this wall. When you own the car outright, depreciation is just a number on paper. It doesn't trap you into anything. You can sell for whatever the market gives you and walk away because there's no lender standing between you and the title. So let's zoom out and put the full 7-year picture side by side. The cash buyer spends $35,000 up front, owns the car free and clear, and if they redirect what would have been a monthly payment into investments, they're looking at a 6-figure swing in net worth by year 7, once you account for both the saved interest and the compounded opportunity cost. The financed buyer spends $44,500 over 7 years, carries negative equity risk for most of that period, and has to hope they never need to break the loan early. And this is why the loan term matters more than the interest rate. Everyone fixates on the rate because it's the number dealerships put in bold on the sticker. But the term is what determines how long compounding works against you instead of for you. A 7% rate over 36 months is a completely different animal than a 7% rate over 84 months, even though the rate itself never changed. The auto industry didn't stumble into 84-month loans by accident. They engineered them because a smaller monthly payment sells more cars, and a longer term means more total interest collected. It's not predatory in the illegal sense. It's just optimized against your math literacy instead of for it. So the next time you're sitting in a finance office and someone slides a piece of paper across the table with a monthly payment circled in blue ink, remember that number isn't the real cost. The real cost is sitting 7 years in the future, in the gap between what you paid and what your money could have become. And that's a number no dealership is ever going to circle for you.